Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Can you please find your seats? Good morning. On behalf of Temple Judea, I'd like to welcome you and thank you so much for being here as we gather to honor and remember a beloved member of our community, Steve Hertz. At this time, we ask that you please silence your phones or turn them off. And in a few moments, the clergy will be walking in with the family. And when they do, please rise. Thank you so much. Please rise for the arrival of the family. Thank you so much. Please rise for the arrival of the family. Thank you so much.
In the blueness of the sky, we remember. In the rustling of the leaves, we remember. As the year starts and it ends, we remember. We remember. When we're weary and need strength, we remember. When we're lost and sick at heart, we remember. When the joys we yearn to share, we remember. We remember. So long as we live, they too shall live. as we remember. We remember as we remember. We remember as we remember.
Today we come together to remember Steve Hertz, to remember someone who taught so much to so many, who taught not only the love of sport, and baseball in particular, but also the hard work that it takes to really excel. He taught the way to maximize someone's potential, not only in baseball, but in life. He taught lessons not only to his family, his children, his grandchildren, all those that loved him, but also to so many people who saw him as a second father, family member, coach, advisor, mentor. And he was beloved by his dear Fran, who was by his side all along every step of the way, and in recent years caring for him deeply, carefully, thoughtfully, and with so much love. Today we come together as one community to bring love and support to his family who come to this moment in grief. In Hebrew, we say, Shiviti Adonai lenegdi tamid. I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side. I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exult and my soul rejoice. My being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful ones see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. Those are words from Psalm 16 that begin a Jewish funeral, and they remind us of the joy that was in Steve's life and that he brought to so many. Because today is a day of sadness, but it is also a day to celebrate all that was good in Steve's life. And so today we will celebrate an incredible, long, and impactful life of Steve. He has been surrounded by love of Fran, his dear wife, his son Jeff and Marcy Hertz, Darren and Julie Hertz, his sister Ann, Betty, and grandchildren Josh, Micah, Brandon, and Lexi Hertz, and many nieces, nephews, cousins, and friends. Death has taken our beloved Steve. His love united us in life, and death cannot sever that bond. For his companionship that was shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of his heart and his mind that brought joy and happiness, and that are now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give thanks to God. In times of grief, we turn to our traditional psalms and words from our Torah and our sources that bring us the message of God's nearness. It reminds us of our kinship with the Creator in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. And so we listen to these words from the Psalms. Esa Enai, I lift up my eyes and I ask for help during difficult times. These words have guided our people for many generations during difficult times of loss and struggle. And we pray that these words will help in this moment of difficulty and loss.
Yavo Esri, Yavo Esri, Meim Adonai, Ose Shamayim Vaaretz, Yai Lai Lai, Yai Lai 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 Lai, Yai Lai Lai, Yai Lai Lai Lai. I lift my eyes up to the hills, from where does my help come? From you, Adonai, Creator of heaven and earth.
Thank you, Cantor Siegel. Those words remind us to find help from God, from looking up to the mountains and bringing down whatever source of comfort is helpful in these difficult moments. As Jews, we also turn to more modern sources to find comfort, to find meaning in the big questions in life. And I'll share with you these words of a more modern day poet, Michael Josephson, in a poem called What Will Matter, reminding us of what life really is all about. When it comes to the end and we look back, what is it that will matter? Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, hours, or days. All the things you collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass to someone else. Your wealth, fame, and temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. It will not matter what you owned or what you were owed. Your grudges, resentments, frustrations, and jealousies will finally disappear. So too your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks you lived on at the end. It won't matter whether you were beautiful or brilliant. Even your gender and skin color will be irrelevant. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many will feel a lasting loss when you are gone. What will matter is not your memories, but the memories of those who loved you. What will matter is how long you will be remembered, by whom and for what. Living a life that matters does not happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. Choose to live a life that matters. We take this moment for silent prayers for Steve's family and silent memories of what Steve meant to each one, those precious memories that will last. we take time for our silent thoughts and prayers. And then we'll invite Jody Rosenthal to sing some beautiful words from our liturgy that were precious to Steve and Fran in the last part of his life.
Good morning. My name is Jody Rosenthal, and I was the cantorial soloist here at Temple Judea when Fran and Steve first joined back in 2019. We became fast friends, and we have stayed closely connected ever since. My husband Ruben and I have been very fortunate to call them our friends. When Fran asked me to sing today, I knew right away that I'd sing Hashkivenu, a prayer I recorded for them long ago that they could listen to whenever they needed just a bit of tranquility and comfort. Hashkivenu asks God to grant that we may lie down in peace and be raised up again to life renewed. I would like to offer it today as a request for God to provide a loving shelter of peace, a Sukkot Shlomecha for Steve in his eternal rest. And for all of you, Steve's dear family and friends, may God protect each of you in God's sheltering presence and raise you up to a new day with strength, with courage, and with peace as you begin your journey of healing, knowing that Steve will always be with you. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim ufroz aleinu sukat shlomecha ufroz aleinu sukat shlomecha Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim l'chaim May you shelter us in peace until the morning comes.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim
Thank you, Jody. Beautiful. At this time, we're going to have a number of family members to share memories about Steve. Now, I have to say, there are a lot of people with a lot of wonderful memories of Steve, and there will be a chance to share those later today in the celebration of life that follows the interment that will follow this service, so later this afternoon. And for now, for this service, we're going to have his children, grandchildren, and niece share some of their family memories of Steve. So first, it's an honor to invite forward Jeff Hertz, his son, and then Darren Hertz will follow. Thank you.
I want to begin by thanking everyone for being here and also thanking everyone who supported my dad as his health declined over the past few years, especially Jerry Finari, Pedro Fonts, George Diaz, Manny Fernandez, Don Solinger, Herb Corris, Paul Cooper, Jeff Curry, David Alexander, Julie Cohen, Ian Rosenfield, and the many, many Miami-Dade baseball players, too many to name, who visited him, lifted his spirits, offered encouragement, and just supported him while he was struggling with his health. While his body did not cooperate, your friendship and compassion meant more to our family than we could even express. I also want to thank my mom, who has been the one person who had to deal with his many bad habits, health challenges, cleaned up after him, scheduled tons of doctor's appointments, paid the bills, dealt with the insurance companies, found M&Ms in the egg bin, and chocolate candy in the washing machine for the last 60 years. When Darren and I moved away to pursue our careers, she carried the responsibility with little recognition. As Dad's health worsened, especially over the past year, it eventually became too much for her to manage alone, as she's also almost 80 years old. He was very happy living in Mirabel, but a fall in May and multiple surgeries took their toll, and he simply no longer had the strength to recover. Darren and I are also grateful for everything Mom did for us while Dad was coaching, spending long days teaching at practice, traveling for games, and missing quite a few of our own sporting events, but that's the life of a coach. He never pressured us to play baseball. In fact, I burned out by 9th grade and found football more fun while Darren gravitated towards basketball. But I'll always remember the countless backyard games with him, especially during the summertime. While we were devastated with his loss, Dad's spirit was positive and joyful, and he wanted this to be a celebration of life. There will be stories shared today that I think many of you, especially as former players and fellow coaches, will enjoy. One of our favorite stories goes back to when he was 11 years old, playing Little League at Great Plain Park, not near where the Orange Bowl once stood. In between innings, the ice cream man drove by. And as the story goes, my dad went over and got some ice cream. Now, it would be one thing if he was going to be up to bat and he was maybe behind the dugout, but he was going out to play defense. He was standing in left field with a package of peanuts in his pocket, a baseball glove in his left hand, and an ice cream cone in his right hand. Chocolate, I presume. The coach called timeout and went out to left field to ask him what the heck he was doing. He was kicked off the team. Fortunately, that wasn't the end of his baseball career, just the beginning of his legend. He signed with the Houston Colt 45 straight out of high school in 1963, before the Major League Baseball draft existed. In an article I found while going through his memorabilia, the Dodgers had scouted him for 2.5 years and protested when Houston signed him, claiming the Colts flew him for a workout to Houston, which was against the rules at the time, but the commissioner ruled in Houston's favor because expenses were reimbursed. And reportedly, 14 teams were interested in signing him. During his professional career, Dad played with or against 9 Hall of Famers and Pete Rose. He later spent time with the Dodgers and won a AAA World Series championship with the Mets in 1969, the same season as the Miracle Mets won the World Series. Despite these accomplishments, he always modestly referred to his Major League Baseball career as a cup of coffee. When Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs in Game 6 of the 1977 World Series, I was 6 years old, and that's my earliest baseball memory. The next day, I asked my dad for his autograph, knowing that he had played Major League Baseball. He said, sure, and signed it, Reggie Jackson. In his retirement video, he stated that going directly from high school to the majors at 19 years old was probably not ideal. Greater maturity might have helped, but I also believe his undiagnosed attention deficit disorder, which he clearly had, played a role. Still, what we know now and understand about ADD is that it can allow people to hyper-focus on what they love, and for him, that was clearly baseball. When he coached at Coral Park in the late 1970s, they were living paycheck to paycheck. Back then, you got an actual check you had to pick up and to physically deposit at the bank. One Friday, he came home and Mom asked if he picked up his paycheck. He replied, no, but we beat Miami Springs 2-1. She was not amused. Again, the focus on baseball. My childhood revolved around baseball fields. Coral Park and Southridge became second homes to me. I loved being the bat boy, sitting in the dugout, and seeing the fun that high school kids had back then. Over 41 seasons, his teams won more than 74% of their games. Highlights included a state championship at Coral Park in 1978, and Miami-Dade College in 2001, state runner-up at Southridge in 1984, and a 5th place finish in the National Junior College World Series. His MDC teams reached the Region 8 district tournament 19 times in 26 seasons, and more than 150 players of his signed professional contracts, including 14 who played Major League Baseball. Internationally, Dad led Team USA to gold medals at the Pan Am Games in Mexico in 1999 and the Maccabi Games in Chile in 2003. In 2007, he coached the Tel Aviv Lightning to a 2nd place finish in the inaugural Israel Baseball League, an experience that he and Mom cherished. So what made him so successful as a coach? Sure, he knew baseball in and out and stressed fundamentals, but it was how he related to his players that made a difference. He got the most joy from teaching players, seeing them improve, and getting results. More than a coach, he was a leader of men, a father figure, and second father to many players, as has been stated by many since his passing. He was constantly getting calls on the home phone from players about personal matters, apartments, furniture, girlfriend issues, etc. Many of his players would say that he taught them how to be successful in life, not just baseball, and that's why they are where they are today. One thing that set him apart was a focus on the mental side of the game. He constantly preached self-confidence and envisioning what you're going to do with the ball before each play. When he got his master's degree, he wrote a paper entitled Hypnosis in Sports, Conditioning Your Mind for Success in Baseball. Several players have said that that was part of the game that really made a huge difference for them. There was one season where he for early retirement, had to take drop, which meant he didn't get paid for a year, but he still coached Miami-Dade for an entire season, not getting paid because he loved doing it. I remember when Miami-Dade had road games, they would travel in several white vans, and he and his assistants would drive the vans. Remember when I mentioned that he had ADD? Well, many have mentioned over the years that they were terrified when he was driving. And guess what he taught at Coral Park? Driver's ed. Back in 1997, Dad had a benign acoustic neuroma tumor in his ear canal, which was causing tinnitus. He was hearing bells and whistles bells and train whistles, and had to have surgery to remove it. They had to cut through his balance nerve to get the tumor out, and that led to many, many falls. Over the years, he had 7 back surgeries, 8 neck surgeries, a pacemaker, hip replacement, knee replacement, and a myriad of other health issues. Josh, what class did Pop teach at Miami-Dade? Yeah, he taught health. So any of his players who took his class, you may want to forget everything he taught you. Growing up in Miami and living here most of his life, he knew so many people. Every time we went out to dinner, he would run into someone he had coached or taught or played with. He also had a great group of friends from his childhood, including Jerry, Gary, Pedro, Joe, Ray, Joey, Pee-wee, and others. I loved watching him play softball with others from Miami High, known as the Old Stings. Dad loved his family, but rarely heard that from his dad, who had been in the military and was from a generation where men didn't often show their emotions or say that they loved other men. He made sure to tell Darren and I that he loved us often. I need to do that more often with my sons. So Josh and Micah, I love you very much, and I'm very proud of you. I was always proud to be his son, and we'll miss him very much. Rest in peace, Philip Pop.
I just want to start out by thanking everyone for being here today. It means so much to our entire family, so thank you very, very much. It's only been 5 days since my dad passed, but in those 5 days, I've received countless calls, texts, emails from different people sending their condolences. And although I'm not surprised, some of the words being used to describe my dad and the impact he had on others is pretty overwhelming. Words like mentor, best coach ever, hero, changed my life, father figure, second father, funny, charismatic, caring, kind, and great human being. I agree with them all, and I'm so proud of the influence he had on so many people. Similarly to what Jeff said, I want to thank my mom for everything. For decades, she's dealt with so many difficult ailments regarding my dad's health, and I think we can take for granted how hard that can be on the caregiver. So thank you, Mom. As most of you know, my dad adored his players. In my opinion, he accomplished what so many coaches try to do but come up short. He nailed the balance of holding them accountable while also developing a deep relationship with them where they knew everything he was doing came from a place of love. He was always available for his players, not when it was convenient for him, but instead whenever they needed him. As Jeff mentioned, I vividly remember the phone constantly ringing at night while we were at the dinner table. This was pre-cell phone, okay? So you actually had to pick up the phone and you didn't know who was calling. Although it may have interrupted dinner and us kids and Mom weren't exactly thrilled, he always took their calls. Sometimes it was a player talking strategy about the next day's game, but most of the time it was real life stuff. An academic issue, a family issue, or a girlfriend issue. And my dad was always there for them. He loved his players. And I know they loved him back. In case you didn't know, my dad loved the game of baseball. He respected the game of baseball. Both Jeff and I literally learned the game just from talking and watching ball with him. For instance, if a runner's on first base with nobody out, it's okay to sacrifice bunt and get the guy to second in scoring position. Not according to Steve Hertz. His players and coaches probably know what I'm talking about because at the very least, he's going to hit and run in that situation. He hated sacrificing outs. Instead, he played for the big inning. His coaches and players know exactly what I'm talking about. He was aggressive on offense. My dad loved Miami. He embraced the Hispanic culture. He even started a pipeline with international kids from Puerto Rico, Venezuela, and the Dominican Republic, to name a few. I remember asking him how he communicates with his players who don't speak English. He said, "Son, I know a little bit of Spanish, and they know a tiny bit of English, but we both know what fastball means." He passed on some different coaching opportunities to stay in Miami, a city he loved, Miami-Dade College, a school he loved, and to keep his family from uprooting. I quit playing baseball at 11 years old. Looking back, he probably didn't love that decision, but he never gave me any pushback. He said to do what makes you happy, and I was happy playing basketball. And the love of that game for me has continued almost 40 years later. During my childhood years, everywhere I went, I'd run into someone who knew my dad. And inevitably, I'd get the same message regardless of who it was. They'd all say, "I love your dad." He had a way with people and always made everyone who he was around feel important. He was just likable, and that's an amazing quality. Growing up, I looked at my dad as a superhero. As a parent, I'm not sure there's a better compliment. You can only hope that your own kids look at you in some kind of positive light like that. I'm going to miss him tremendously. It will be hard not to have our phone conversations, which always began with him saying, "Hey boy, this past Saturday was the first game. I couldn't call him after our game." I'm not sure I'll ever get used to that, but I do know this: I will do whatever I can as a coach, parent, spouse, brother, son, friend, or a stranger, because that's how he was, to make him proud. You see, whether I was reporting good news or difficult news, my dad was always there to support and guide me. Although I can't ask him for advice anymore, I feel very confident that I'll still hear him in my head guiding me along. Love you, Dad.
Good morning. I'm Catherine. I'm Anne's daughter, and I'm reading this on her behalf as she's Steve's sister. Some people hit the jackpot. Some people win the lottery. I hit a grand slam when it, when it came to having the best brother any girl could ever ask for. When we were little kids, Steve had to drag me along with him because my parents made him. He never complained about it, not to me at least, and I thought he always did it out of love. He always made me feel welcome. Steve was always there for me. Steve loved people, and everyone who knew him loved him too. He didn't have a mean bone in his body. He had an amazing sense of humor, an infectious smile, and an innocent, flirtatious way about him that just drew people to him. Steve was one of the most loyal and selfless men I've ever known. He was the king of advice, specifically about having a positive attitude, being disciplined and dedicated, working hard, and acting with loyalty and kindness. Steve always practiced what he preached, except for one thing, having a healthy diet. As many of you know, his sweet tooth often got the best of him, especially if chocolate was involved, but he loved every bite. Although we spent our adult lives many miles apart, we never lost that unique bond that brother and sister share, and we stayed close for his entire life. We were fortunate to have grown up in a very loving home with parents who allowed an open door policy for all of our friends, many of whom are here today. Our parents always made everyone feel welcome, and Steve did the same throughout his lifetime. Steve always made the extra effort to visit and spend time with me, my kids, and my grandkids whenever the opportunity was available. He helped coach and advise my 3 playing grandsons, those are my kids, whether it was in person, coaching lessons during a visit, a FaceTime pep talk, or some motivational words through text. Steve continued to send encouraging baseball literature to them until the end. Steve always encouraged his coaching buddies, friends, and ex-players to contact me when they visited California and insisted that I should meet them, invite them for a meal, or to play golf with them. These friendships meant so much to Steve, and now I can call so many of these people my friends too. Steve often received kind messages from his former players or was the subject of articles and publications describing his contributions and achievements. He proudly and humbly shared these messages and publications with me. He touched the lives of so many people at various ages of their lives as a mentor, father figure, coach, and friend. Steve was so fortunate and blessed to have so many loving people in his life who often shared with him how they felt about him. I'm so grateful that he knew how much he was loved. I visited Steve this past September. He had returned to Mirabel, his assisted living facility, after a long stint in hospitals and rehab centers. His body was so compromised, and it was incredibly hard for him to accept this. He was thin and weak, but as soon as we returned to Mirabel, Steve insisted that we go to the dining room for lunch together. The reception from everyone there brought tears to my eyes. Everyone at Mirabel, both employees and other residents, were so incredibly happy to see him again. I could see how much he had touched the people there, just like he had done his entire life with everyone he met. And I knew he was returning to a loving and welcoming place. It was during that lunch that we learned of a caregiver through another resident. As this opportunity fell into our laps, Mark Hercule was hired the next day as Steve's weekday caregiver. Mark was so encouraging to Steve, working with him to get outside, eat more, and gain strength. Mark quickly learned that everyone called Steve Coach, and he quickly followed suit. It felt like the perfect match for Steve, just what he needed, and I want to thank Mark for being there for Steve and our family. Losing my only sibling has been the most difficult thing I've ever experienced. My heart goes out to Fran, Jeffrey, Darren, Marcy and Julie, Josh, Micah, Brandon, and Lexi, all of whom Steve loved so deeply, along with his many cousins, nieces, and nephews. It gives me great comfort to know that Steve is now at peace and pain-free. It is also comforting to see all of you here who I know will remember and miss him as much as I do now and will forever. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you for being here for Steve, myself, and all of our family. Let's remember all the good memories that we have shared. I love you, Steve. I just have one, sorry. I just want to say a few things on behalf of me and my brothers and our families. Sorry, it's short. I won't be surprised if we hear this quote more than once today because it fits Uncle Steve perfectly. I came across it one day while I was in Cooperstown with my kids, the heart of baseball in the US, how fitting. John Wooden once said, "A good coach can change a game, a great coach can change a life." I immediately thought of my uncle and how many people he had touched during his lifetime. As a former athlete and a mother of 3 boys who play baseball, I know how deeply coaches can impact a life. Baseball was much more than a game to Uncle Steve. It was a metaphor, a means to living one's life fully, honestly, and devotedly. I've always deeply respected his choices in life and how he lived it. At an early age, he found his love for his lifelong partner, Fran, and his vocation. He was truly blessed. I will miss his motivational words that he sent me throughout high school and college, and then started sharing with my kids as they started playing sports. It was always a metaphor to how to live one's life, how to use the tools to be a better person, be a better teammate, and how to get the best out of yourself, how to be honest and true. And I know his same actions and words touch so many of you. Uncle Steve always made us feel special and important. He always made time for us. We will miss his heartfelt laugh, the twinkle in his eye, his adoration for our mother and his entire family, his childlike love for chocolate, and a whole lot more. We love you, Uncle Steve. May you rest in peace.
Thank you, Catherine and Anne and Jeffrey and Darren for those beautiful words. And now we're going to hear from Steve's grandchildren. They're going to come up as a group, and they're going to each introduce themselves and share their memories of their pop. Right into the mic. Make sure you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Josh, Pop's oldest grandchild, and my dad, his son, Jeff's son. My first memory of Pop was of him throwing me up in the air in the pool in Gainesville. I remember laughing as I crashed into the water. He was laughing as well. We spent a lot of time in the pool together. I also remember having a boxing fight with him with his styrofoam weights. He used to always lift them in the pool, and we would always have boxing fights with them. Another memory I have of Pop was of him teaching me how to throw a baseball. This sums up a big part of my relationship with him. We could always laugh and have fun together while he taught me things. Not only did Pop teach me how to throw a baseball, he taught me how to be a more disciplined and hardworking young man. I will miss Pop and the memories that we made together, but I will never forget the lessons that he taught me and the love that he showed me. Love you, Pop.
Hi, I'm Micah, Pop's second oldest grandson. My Pop taught me many valuable lessons. First, through his endless passion for and pursuit of baseball, he showed me that when you put hard work into the things you love, success will come naturally. At the same time, he taught me that while hard work is important, so is enjoying yourself. From taking me and Brandon to a Marlins game, and even taking us down on the field, to cheating in the games categories, there were no shortages of laughs or smiles in Pop's life. Finally, the most important lesson of all. You see, Grammy, Pop, and I were all on a Life 360, a location tracking app together. What I didn't realize was that it also sent Pop a notification every time my battery got low. And without fail, Pop would text or call me every single time to remind me to charge my phone. And I think Pop would be proud to know that my phone is at 87% right now. And I'll remember him every time that I charge my phone. I love you, Pop, and I'll never forget the memories we made and the lessons you taught.
Hi, I'm Darren's son and Pop's youngest grandson. My name is Brandon. Today we're all gathered for a man who many of us knew and loved, my grandpa Steve. Although I didn't call him Grandpa, I called him Pop. He wore a shirt that read, "My people call me Pop." A lot of us took that to heart. Pop was so much more than just a grandpa. He was a husband, father, baseball player, coach, teacher, mentor, and so much more. He looked out for everyone, hoping to make a positive impact on others' lives. The thing is, he did so much that it seems everyone has a story about him. And if you can be so valuable to where many want to share about who you are and what you did, then you impacted them in a way they can't forget. Pop would send me messages or videos about motivation or sports or whatever he'd find interesting. Even when I did or didn't respond occasionally, he was reliable in sending me back messages consistently. I look back today through those messages. The amount of care to continue to still find ways to try and make me happy even when going through so much shows you how much Pop truly persevered through coaching, sports, or anything. He was an imprint of goodness. Today, as we remember him, we celebrate a well-lived life, a life that touched many, shaped many, and an everlasting impact. I know he's proud watching over me and everyone else here, and I'm proud to have been his grandson. Thank you, Pop. Love you.
Hi, I'm Darren's daughter and Steve's youngest granddaughter, Lexi. My grandpa, aka Pop, was the funniest, most loyal, and loving grandfather a granddaughter could ever ask for. I've had so many amazing memories with him that I'll never forget. I feel like we connected very well and were relatable on several things, especially chocolate. And I enjoyed every single time we FaceTimed. And I know that he enjoyed it too, because when I was really young, he forced me to memorize his number so that I would call him. He's made a large impact on my life and will forever have a special place in my heart. I love you, Pop.
Thank you all so much for sharing those beautiful memories of your pop with us. I want to share a little bit of a different perspective on Steve, because I am terrified to say this in this room right now, but I don't know very much about baseball. I can certainly appreciate a fine coach and someone who is so dedicated to his players and the game and Miami and his family and Israel. And the amazing thing about Steve is that we still found plenty to talk about, and that he was truly what I consider a mensch, a good person, a really good person. We bonded. One time I was going to visit because he had been quite ill and going through so many health challenges, really since I've known him. But he had such a good attitude, and he and Fran welcomed me into their home for one of the most lovely lunches ever that I will never forget, because he just loved talking to people. And it didn't matter to him what I knew about baseball. He just was happy to be with me and talk. And from what I understand, that's really how he was. Whether it was baseball or anything else, he was really great with people. And you've said it in so many different ways. He was just such a wonderful person to be around. Today we remember a beloved husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle, coach, mentor, and I will say, mensch. He was born in Dayton and raised in Miami, and his life was shaped early on by love, discipline, humor, and a deep Jewish spirit that was instilled by his parents. From the moment he left a baseball tryout for an ice cream truck, as you heard, it was clear that Steve approached life with joy, but also with heart. This week, Jews around the world read the same Torah portion, Vayeshev, beginning the long story of Joseph, a young dreamer whose journey takes him far from home, through challenges, leadership, and ultimately a legacy that shaped a nation. Like Joseph, Steve was a dreamer who became a builder. Baseball did take him all over the world, to decades of coaching at Miami-Dade, and even to Israel, that experience that really shaped him, I know, where he helped nurture a young baseball culture with the same passion he brought to every team. Steve taught discipline, ethics, and hard work. He taught players not to be just better athletes, but better people, a gift Joseph himself in the Bible learns in his journey. And he created family everywhere he went, in dugouts, in the Maccabi games, in Israel, and always side by side with Fran and with his family. To Darren and Jeff, Steve was not only a father, but a model of how to live with integrity. To his grandchildren, he was Pop, funny, warm, and endlessly devoted. He was a legend. He was a proud member of the Jewish Baseball Hall of Fame, a coach whose life elevated others, a man whose early to rise discipline was matched only by his ability to connect with anyone of any background. In Vayeshev, Joseph's story begins with the words, "These are the generations," reminding us that legacy is not what we do, but what we pass on to the next generation and generations. Steve's legacy lives on in every player he shaped, in every family member he loved, in every community he touched, and in every life he quietly lifted in some way. May his memory always be for blessing, and may we continue to work by living with the same love, the same ethics, and wholehearted spirit that defined his beautiful life. And we all say, Amen. Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of Steve, for you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, God, are with us. Please rise at this time for the words of El Maleh Rachamim.
El Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Bameromim, Hamsei Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShekhinah, Im Kedoshim Tohorim, Kezohar Rakiyam Azahirim, Et Nishmat Shmuel Avraham Ben David V'Sarah Shalach Le'olamo Barachamim Yastirehu B'Tseter Kenafav Le'olamim Vitzror HaChayim Et Nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom hamishkavo v'nomar
Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Steve Hertz, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. We are about to leave the sanctuary and follow the pallbearers and then the family out of the temple to go to the cemetery. As we leave this sanctuary, Cantor Siegel will be singing an Israeli song called Al Kol Eleh. These words mean for all these things, for the honey and the sting, for the bitter and the sweet. Please stand guard for me, my good God. May Steve's memory forever be a blessing as we follow the family on to the cemetery. As we are about to leave, I want to make sure everyone knows that after the cemetery, everyone's invited to come back to Temple Judea for lunch and a casual celebration of Steve's life. And then later this evening, there will be a family-only Shiva at the home. Thank you all so much.
Al hadvash ve'al ha'okez, al hamar ve'hamatok, al biteinu hatinoket, shmor eli hatov, al ha'esh hamivo'eret, al hamayim hasakim, al ha'ish hashav habaita min hamerchakim, al kol